Hi, as we have been presented, I'm Tom, this is Marsel. We should be explaining what the official policy towards free software open source software in Croatia is, but the evident problem is that there is none. It's only recently that we have gotten a working body that should produce a policy paper based on EU recommendation or directive to produce such a paper, and it's only in the future that we'll receive the first policy document and hopefully implementation of that policy in the public sector in Croatia. So basically what defines the use of free software and open source software in Croatia in the public sector is that there is none. It's a Microsoft dominated area. There has been some history of negotiation over how to include free software, yet they have failed for some reason. So maybe
I think that our situation there was that the state was focused on some other issues which are not really, this is not placed really because of the war and all of the other things. And also we had, we've been lucky that Mr. Radman, who's now the director of the regional director of Microsoft, was also in Croatia. So he was also, before he became the head of Microsoft Croatia, he was director of national TV, and he had quite a lot of contacts, and he's quite a successful guy. That's why he is regional director in Microsoft. So they didn't care about many issues. At first, in parallel, Carnet was the state, in that sense, academic and state institution, which did quite a lot of in implementing the new technologies, internet, and all of the other things. But beside that, and that was in parallel, so state just didn't really care about it. And at first they thought that the internet is just full of porn movies and blah blah blah. So they had ideas. Our president had idea to actually to give away some of our islands to Bill Gates and to all of the other CEOs. So there were a couple of really ridiculous ideas of how to actually get into the new technology as Croatia. So that we were lucky again that failed actually. Besides Carnet, there were also a couple of Linux, or one, the National Linux User Group, which raised the issue where when Croatian state had to sign the second contract with Microsoft. And yeah, they were also successful not just in selling Microsoft licenses, but also in getting the BSA, Business Software Alliance, to work. And in Croatia, I think in the business sector, it's I think quite well compared to the other countries in transition. So there were a couple of roundtables and some discussions in the media, which again just was good probably to dump Microsoft prices, but there were not any serious, really serious plans to implement free software. And at that time, just after 2000, state founded at first Department for Internetization. Office, Office for the Internetization, and that really failed quite badly. At the end, in media, the head of that office just said that they don't have a website after 2 or 3 years because that's not what did he say, that that's the old technology. So they didn't have anything else, but the website was old technology for them to have it. And then we got some other office which is called e-Croatia, Hърватska.
Basically e-governance office.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
And There are some people there which are really friendly, and also they're coming from, they have academic background. For example, Diana Šimić, she wrote one of the famous LaTeX manuals in Croatia. So it's not that they don't know about software. They know, but their main concern is that there is no business infrastructure for getting into any serious plans. And in that sense, I agree. But that's kind of closed loop where if you don't have a plan and policy, then you won't have any business infrastructure. And if you're saying that you don't have a plan because there is no business structure, it's something is wrong in that.
In 2004 in spring, the licenses for Microsoft licenses for public sector were up for the renewal, and it's back then that an intensive discussion has started whether the state should subscribe to official policies using free software. But at the moment, part of their argument is that there are no service providers that would provide service stable enough to maintain whatever the needs of public sector are. So the licensing agreement was signed again, though they managed to cut into the price quite severely.
Half the price.
When it was signed?
It was in June 2004, I believe. So they have been able to cut from like 7 million euros to what is it, 3.5 million euros. So they've been able to cut the price based on the argument that the state might just go to start using free software, which it didn't. Well, part of the reasoning.
But I think that was more like media pressure. That the issues were in media than anyone from the state said that they are seriously actually planning to. They just said that they considered that option, but they are quite sure that they will continue with Microsoft. And in that sense, what I'm trying to say is that those people are not like Microsoft Alliance in that sense, especially from that office, but they have some serious concerns, and what we are trying to negotiate is what will be the role of that office, because if they will be just passive and trying to get everything from the society, from the academic research network, or from the non-governmental organizations, or from the business, I'm not sure that will work or that will happen. So it's now more into negotiations about how to have them also more active in that and to start the whole process. And when we mentioned the business capacity in Croatia, I could say that there is just a couple of small businesses which would say that they are focused on free software maintaining and on free software solutions. There are also a couple of others which are part of the bigger businesses like IBM, and also from our quite successful pharmaceutical Pliva, is the biggest company in Croatia. So they spin off their IT department, but no one from that side, from the big business, actually said that officially. So there are people who, and inside of their departments, they use free software. They have people who are quite good in providing solutions and maintaining, but that's not something which you could hear in public. That's always just like I don't know, informal talks behind the scene. So in that sense, that eCroatia office has a good point about the business capacity, but it's really just about how to move from that.
So it will be interesting once the policy document is there. I don't know when it should be completed. Do you know, maybe even know when they need to complete the document? Well, summer. Yeah, everything is very fast nowadays because the EU negotiations are putting a lot of pressure on legislating and policy-making processes in the country. So it will be an interesting period in a way that the policy will be defined. There is definitely one person there with free software credibility, and then is the CTO. Is he CTO?
He's vice CEO.
CTO, Chief Technical Officer, is he?
Yes, but he's also deputy.
Okay. So a person who is CTO and vice CEO of Croatian Academic and Research Network, who has been also responsible for the implementation of free software in their institution for quite some time now. I'm sure that you can tell more about this. It will be an interesting period in the sense that policy will be defined and that state will be required to also get some money for free software development of free software services. So I guess also the reasoning that there is no support will have to be in a way become a thing of the past, and they will have to create at least services of their own. There are lots of big players in free software that have their subsidiaries in Croatia, like IBM, like Novell. And there are a couple. I know that Carnet is also developing their own distribution for their internal needs, and there are other smaller enterprises, medium enterprises that develop.
Yeah, I would say that there is no really serious advocacy of free software at the level and targeting states. So we are also coming from more culture and activist field. So in that scene we can see some more dynamic, and we will talk about it in Sunday, I think, or tomorrow. Yeah, we'll talk about those projects more tomorrow. But when we come to free software, then we could see that there are a lot of people who were active like 7 or 8 years ago, or even more, but now they have good jobs in IT industry, and they just become much more silent when advocating. So there is a lot of rumors, there is a lot of talks behind the scene, but there are no really actors.
We mean that the community is getting smaller, or the people who can lobby about open source?
Yeah, actually we didn't have at any time a group of people who were advocating free software, targeting state and policy how to implement free software in education or in the e-government, e-government and those kind of things. So what I'm trying to say is that there was some gathering of people in mid-90s who started, for example, KUB, which is Croatian Linux user group, and they were active, but not in advocacy. They were acting in spreading the idea of free software in general, or more in the technical field. And then what we could see in zeros after 2000 is that some other scene recognized free software because of its values and because of social context. So there is some advocacy in that direction, but there is not really any serious advocacy in
Are there any initiatives at local level? Some standalone initiatives, for example, in municipalities or in cities, or some standalone initiatives that are not recognized like official policy, but some group of people are doing some projects, not in the central government, but...
Well, not at the level of advocacy and trying to provide any paper, any policy. So there is a group, there is an active group, for example, in Rijeka, which is the one of the bigger cities in Croatia, but that's again Linux user group, which is not, and they don't know there are like maybe 10 or 20 people from 19 years old to 22 or something. So they're not really, they don't realize that the advocacy and policy is part of what they should do. I mean, then they don't need to do that, but I'm just trying to say that there is not enough awareness of the policy and advocacy work.
Yeah, and the lower level of government are not so strong in IT policy because all the licenses are bought by the government, central government, and they are distributed. That is, everybody is free to use Windows operating system and then other solutions. And other solutions that government is providing them with, which are proprietary. So I assume there might be system admins that use free software solutions, but it's not policy. It's just
and actually, when there is a policy, then that's like illegal to that policy. So most of the time you must have Windows servers, but then sysadmins just put some Linux, and then again it's just behind the scene they would say like, oh, we have a couple of servers, or all of our servers are on Linux or on Unix sometimes, but that's not something which they are supposed to do. And the other thing is that when we talk about numbers talk quite well for Microsoft, because there is an industry behind that. There are a lot of people who depend on Microsoft products, and in that sense, it's really just raising something almost from scratch, from zero, compared to something which states sees as a serious part of our economy. So yeah, it's not really. They're not really enthusiastic in terms of that we see the bright future in that sense.
For example, the websites or web systems of the ministries or other government structures, are they running Linux or open source?
Most of the time they run Windows servers and some content management systems, which one of the quite big software company provided them, so they had contracts for that. But for example, Croatia Office, they have PHP Nuke and Linux server, so they try to do something, and they know about free software, but again they are not loud about it. And there was also a big scandal that PHP Nuke was there was some exploit, they didn't maintain it properly because someone just installed it and then they didn't really get into the contract, so someone just broke their server, so that was a scandal. And then they would say, some people would say, said that that's because it's free of charge software, so it's not secure enough. So that was also quite bad PR for free software, but it was not that big that we could say that that's really significant and that's important.
And what about the open standards? I mean, you mentioned about the EU synchronization and adoption policy, so they should include in some stage adoption of open standards.
I think that's a part of the population
they produce, because there is at the moment no one is using free standards in terms of documents. State and government servers use usually Word document formats or PDF formats or other proprietary formats, depending like the coverage of session, the parliamentary sessions is now being implemented in Windows Media Standard, and so it's non-existent at the moment.
If there will be any progress, I think it will be part of the global France, and that won't be Croatia specific, I think. So that will be because of the pressure from the EU and because everybody actually talk more about open standards these days. Then I can't see really the relevant actors who do that. I think that the other area where we are, I feel much better. But that's culture, and it's much different than how to put how to put the same efforts in targeting state or policy or technology.
It's I guess it's probably similar here. In smaller countries, it's very difficult to implement policies because government structures usually are very tiny and they function on multiple layers, like our Ministry of Science, Education and Sport. They handle all those three things, and our minister has heard of Wikipedia. That's the problem, that it always depends if you have a person who knows of something or not, and not complex structures within political parties and then within the government who do understand the importance of policies. So that's, I guess, pretty much the case in all post-Yugoslav countries, which have to deal with the new structures of governance. But I'm sure that also it's very characteristic of smaller countries where you have complex structures in that sense.
Just Microsoft always. I don't know if there is anyone from Serbia here.
No.
So I think the same thing happened in Serbia like 5 years after Croatia. So Microsoft just made a big event out of signing contracts, and then states were just convinced that that's the way to go because they're just so amazing numbers around what they can provide, and then they say like that's the industry, and what are you talking about? It's free of charge and there is no capacity. So Microsoft in that sense could build the infrastructure, and speaking just economically, that's happening in Croatia. So a lot of people actually have jobs and work depending on Microsoft. And
Microsoft has been dominant solution since like Windows 3.11. So all, especially small and medium businesses, use.
Yeah, from those and Clipper applications and FOSS, point of sales.
The only large company which uses extensively free software, they use Red Hat. It's the biggest chain of food stores in Croatia, Konzum. They use point of sale, Linux clients and such things. But yeah, it's just cheaper for them. They have a rationale, but that's basically a larger problem that Windows has been there dominant for like last 15 years, and it's very difficult to implement things, particularly on user level, other than proprietary.
Finished yet?
Okay. Just a question. As you're the project leaders for Creative Commons in Croatia, does the government of Croatia recognize the licenses, and does the government use the licenses for any purpose, for some documentation or something like this?
No. There is no need for a government to recognize a license, because license is a legal document that can be created by a legal entity or private person. So, and it doesn't hold any less degree of legality. The problem is whether judiciary, in the case of dispute, would recognize the license as valid and all of the terms of licenses valid. But there is no need for government to recognize it.
I was asking if the government uses the Creative Commons.
They don't need, because what they produce is public domain most of the time. And when they produce something more specific, then it's not like government policy, but a specific department or something like that. But we don't have that kind of production, so that we could say like, why didn't you open something? Because there is no something which you can talk about.
Yeah, right. And what about the universities?
That goes better. So, currently, for example, we have programs which actually, I think that Creative Commons in public is much more recognized. But what we are talking now is more like a state policy, and in culture field, Creative Commons is quite well known.
In the culture field, but I was asking about the educational materials.
It goes, and we have some projects with Carnet, with the Croatian Academic Research Network, which probably would be in that sense successful, and they are open to that even from before, because they didn't actually they didn't really close the documents, and we didn't have a culture of copyrighted materials on universities where a lot of people are fighting about the authorship or something like that. So in that sense, it's not. It's much better. We can talk about it more happily.
There is like open access community which is very strong in Croatia, but then again it's not official university policies. It's just really people who try to
volunteers.
It's mostly librarians who advocate this because it's. They are the ones who feel the pressure of journal subscriptions going up, and it's they the first who notice negative economic effects
and when we talk about academia, then it's more specific, because when it comes to the publishing scientific papers, then Creative Commons is not that particularly well fit, because scientific publishing has quite much more complex context. So Science Commons in that sense is much more appropriate, and we just had John Wilbanks a month and a half ago, and he did a couple of two good speeches, and also one on our Institute Ruđer Bošković, which was, in that sense it goes, but it's really just opening and raising the whole area. But I'm much more enthusiastic about that and about culture and science than about the business and state. So that's, for me, they're much different fields.
Right. Thank you, Marcel. Thank you, Tommy.
Do we have enough specialists that can support eventual policy? Do we have enough qualified specialists in the market?
Like technically, technicians, and we don't know. Most of the people from the free software community would say that they are enough, but I'm more skeptic. And I wouldn't say that in public in Croatia, but just like saying that here, I feel it's my honest answer. We have quite good educational system in that sense that a lot of people are familiar with Unix, and we have a lot of good programmers and system administrators. But I'm not sure that if the business model wouldn't change completely, that they would go for the more specifically for Unix at least, or for Linux and free software. So they go into the business areas where then they start to be dependent on Microsoft.
And what about their attitude to these ideas? They work with these technologies for money. What is their attitude to?
It's always like ambivalent in terms of they prefer free software in terms of technically, but there is always like, but we need to live from something. We live even free software. We are the privileged class in society these days. But that goes quite, it's kind of a hard process because because of that argument that proprietary software and that business model provide better systems to the IT specialists, which I'm not sure that that's true, but that's the common belief. And then whenever you try to go deeper into the story, then someone will just raise that argument and say you need to eat something. You know, it's so stupid that I don't know. And then, and in that sense, I think that there is a big potentiality, especially because of our couple of faculties, which produce a lot of well-skilled people. But if you want to have the field where they will really kind of become the real specialists in that sense, not just hackers, in terms of knowing the enterprise level of free software, that's what I think is what we are missing. So just putting Apache here and there, and I don't know, PHP and MySQL is not the skills which I see as the most important. I think that they should go more into the enterprise level of free software, and for that you need context. You need a project where you really explore it, because that's what business actually asked.
About the municipality. What do you think about the tendencies in your region about the future development of and implementation of open source software on the municipal level? Is there any perspectives? Is there any enthusiasm there to defend that IT solutions based on free and open source?
So you're asking
what is the future in your country? Is there, because here we have to fight with the ministry to defend our IT solution based on free and open source, for example, sometimes.
Well, as far as I know, the only really large municipality that has a very large IT structure is the city of Zagreb. But I don't know how they are dealing with the ministry. And the thing is that licenses are paid by central government to Microsoft, yeah, and they cover the use of the licensed software in all of the governments, so including municipalities. So there are probably institutional policies that might be at work, but I don't know what they are. Like I know that CAT has had a policy, but with the new director they have sort of put it on ice. So what might be, your question is what might be strategies to fight against the ministry or the central government to be able to maintain your policy?
Maybe what has to be the strategy to raise municipal interest to open source software?
But maybe we have to start with this.
Good practices.
Oh, best practices. Oh, maybe you should ask people from the government of Extremadura. They have been doing a great job in that sense, and they have really provided a best practice model. So they might have more of the answer than we do, because there are no municipal policies contradicting the government policies in Croatia. There might be institutional, but that's really just depending on the people who are in the institution. So these people come and go. Policies don't stay.
Problem is that at the state level, they think that they made a good deal with Microsoft. So on that legal side, they are covered. They are fine. They don't think that that's the problem, because they already have software which is paid, so they don't think about another. So they will start to think about another round just before signing the new round with Microsoft. And on the other side, on local levels where there is no big businesses, and Croatia is quite centralized in that sense. They don't care because for them it's like it's free of charge because they use pirated copies of Microsoft, and there is no really a lot of local initiatives where you could see that there are some hackers around who do some interesting stuff which is better or whatever. That you could see that there is any other software than Microsoft. So there is no actually idea that there is software. I mean, it is in terms of Linux is some kind of brand which people probably heard about. But when you come outside of big cities, there is no really, there is no need actually. Because for them, it's much like it's like pirate copy of Windows, the latest Windows. Probably they have Vista, not even XP.
When does this Microsoft contract end, and did the EU integration process, especially the developments in the EU, which have a lot of open source and free software introduction into the, let's say, local government or regional government level, influence any of the perception via in Croatia, or can they be used by the local free and open source?
So we have the policy document that is being written at the moment. Basically, the body writing the document has had its first constituting session just like 2 weeks ago, maybe. Yeah. So they are working on the document, and as soon as there is a document, there will be also some implementation questions, and they will be they will need to start developing dynamics with the developer community to have the necessary solution implemented in the government. So in that sense, I think that EU directive will work out very positive in the sense that it will put this thing into thing will become visible in the public eye, and that's
about the document. I tried to know names of these people in that work group, and they don't want to state their names because they expect they will be under pressure from commercial world. So that says enough.
And how about this? Is there any question of decentralization of administration?
IT administration.
Not online, IT maybe, but just many other things are local, regional administration. And I guess the picture for the Croatia is so centralized, and the market will just go ahead to deal with the...
There is a issue of decentralization, but part of that is not IT. So that's a political problem. So when they talk about that, they talk again about in political, really just a politicized political issue in a way that is it Istria as a region or not? And so it's not like part of separate. So it's not like how would you do that, and what would be part and process of that. What would be the methodology? It's always like just the political issue, mostly about the identity, than about how to make it work.
Yeah, we are really far from the policies in terms of how political dynamics go between lower level of government, higher level of government.
We are in between, so we are not poor enough to need the desperate solution for long-term development. So in that sense, we had some certain level of the industry developed. And at the same time, we are not developed enough that we should start to consider free software as a solution in total cost of ownership and these kinds of things. So we have actually most of our industry software industry is small, medium software companies who are getting jobs not just in Croatia but also from the outside with outsourcing So in that sense, they are fine. They don't need to provide better and better solutions inside, for example. Or when they have it, then it's not something which starts to be a policy. For example, in Pliva, that pharmaceutical big company, they have their own IT department, and it's not really about the policy. For them, was the one guy there, he did quite a lot of things well, so they have a good infrastructure, and they are focused on free software. They also, we will talk tomorrow more about that. They also opened the code of the project where they put like €1 million or something like that. So in that sense, there are some things, but what we see as the main problem is that it doesn't go into the policy. It doesn't go into at that level where people communicate about it seriously and formally, so that you could say that that could be modeled for something else. So it's more like separated. And when it comes to the centralized or to the solutions which could be used for as models, then it's stayed with Microsoft. And you should just know that it's a really strong connection. And and probably mostly because of Radman also, because of that guy who was well positioned, who was in that sense quite well businessman, and he did good business for Microsoft in Croatia. So
and he was in talks of becoming prime minister at some point.
Yeah.
He declined, so that's
so he was
also the popular idea of
he had him as a prime minister, then probably would have
So what do you think would be best strategy appropriate for Croatia to increase public awareness and to increase public awareness of a policy level need for using and adopting the software? Maybe that it's not economic, it seems to be. It would be about technological or decentralization or something?
Probably at some level antitrust policy. I mean, it's clear that the market is Microsoft monopolized and sort of powered by Microsoft solutions. So that's definitely one smart strategy. Another strategy is definitely quotas, and they also reflect in a way antitrust policies. I don't think that maybe bringing it down to low levels of government would make any difference, because it would make it maybe more powerful, but then again it would be policies, but again people for or against, and once the people for go, it's the thing changes and the whole thing reverts back to proprietary. So
and also education, I think, but that's also so Carnet, Croatian Academic Research Network. They are responsible for the implementation as like spreading the technology, so to connect all the elementary schools and high schools into the academic research network. And that's the quite big and huge project for them. So it goes beyond their capacities at the moment. And the bad thing is that they don't use it also as a platform for spreading the free software, because there is quite a lot of arguments which you could use. And the bad thing also is that the new head of Carnet is not that keen to do that. He actually wouldn't say no completely, so just go for Microsoft with some arguments. But from his previous job, where he worked as a head of national railways, he used Microsoft. IT sector of national railways. He had quite good deals with Microsoft. He got used to that, using that solutions, and in that sense, I'm quite sure that we lost the chance that that process would be used for arguments for education. And if that will be just left to the state, it's quite, there are big chances that Microsoft will just get into another deal where we will be stuck with Microsoft solution, and they will just make a big event again and saying that Microsoft gave it for free or something like that. So they could do that, or they could just, that could be part of the new round of signing the contracts with our state, so that the education would be, be for free or really for the small money or something like that. So that's the area which I think could be used, but at the moment I see that there are not that much doors where you can just go.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe last question, and then we can move to.
Are there much discussion about Croatia becoming producer of IT technology rather than staying as consumer? Or is it how central is it to discussion about knowledge economy?
Yeah, we are trying to get that issue in public, and I think that in that sense we are successful about knowledge and the development of society. But that's just in the area, that issue is raised just in the area of more of culture and like daily about the public opinions, not as part of the, like the state structure. So I'm not sure when Parliament would start to talk about it. And at the same time, in that political kind of spectrum, the radical right wing, actually the only political party which really support free software, because they see it as an anti-American, not depending on America. And we don't have a transparent lobby. So, and we are on the other part of the spectrum as the organization, so we don't want to go into the office of that political party or those political parties, start talking about the free software, because they are not supporting that really understanding and purposes and the long-term development, but more like the almost, like the position in the political spectrum where they think that that's the way how you can start being dependent on American technologies. Yeah, I mean that's the argument. That's the well-known, obvious argument. But it's really about how you put into the public discussion and part of the political processes some issues. So you need like processes where to put it. And one of the things which is quite bad in Croatia, except beside that what we were talking about was free software, is that lobbying is not well developed. So there are no like in US they were like paying inside of the parliament for some decisions. That was ridiculous. But they have some kind of kind of methodology how to actually influence some process of decision making. And as was said, now they hide people who are in the group who are developing the documents. So it's not the right way to do things. To hide people because of the pressure, but then you could make it part of the public discussion, but they didn't. And we can say like, it's again non-transparent, blah blah blah. But there are so many initiatives which says government is not transparent enough that we can send a press release and nothing will happen.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can move next and then continue with if there are any further